Okay, shalom everybody, and again, my deep apologies for the delay in coming over half an hour, even more. I'm really sorry about that. Sometimes things are out of our control, especially here in Eretz Yisrael, and especially during the 3 weeks. 3 weeks, things don't work out like they should, but at the same time, it's the greatest opportunity to connect to Hashem, like we said many times in the name of the Maggid Mizrich, Kol Rodfea Hisigu Ben HaMitzarim. All those who are pursuing Hashem's highest levels, Yud K, can perceive Him through Vav K in the 3 weeks in Ben HaMitzarim. Me personally, 1989, I discovered Breslov in this week. On the 21st of Tammuz, it was a Sunday, 1989. That's when Rebbe Nachman woke me up, and it started this week. And also this week is packed with many tzaddikim who passed away, many tzaddikim who made a big impact and change in Breslov. You have on Friday, the 22nd of Tammuz, the yard site of Rebbe Levi Yitzhak Bender. I came to Breslov a day before he passed away. He passed away Monday, 22 Tammuz, 1989. I discovered Breslov the day before, 21 Tammuz, 1989. And on Shabbat, which is the 23rd, is the yard site of Gedalia Koenig. So you have two big Breslov impacts in this week. And many people, they say that things in their Yiddishkeit really changed in these 3 weeks. So it's not like the world thinks, oh, it's mourning and no showers and no, like everything's negative. It's not that. It's just the opposite. It's through these tzimtzumim, these constrictions, that people come close to Hashem. In any event, we are now finally continuing with Likutey Moharan. We're going back to Likutey Moharan. We're now in paragraph number 9. Number 9 is Rav Nossin's expounding and clarification of the two previous sections, section 7 and 8. We have to say clearly that this piece of Likutey Moharan is probably one of the most far-reaching pieces in the entire book of Likutey Moharan. I remember, listening to Rav Nosson Maimon's classes on this class, on lesson 24, and he said that when you learn the Likutey Moharan by order, lesson 1, 2, 3, and you get to lesson 23, you get to lesson 24, you see this is like a different ball game. Why? Because in this lesson, Rebbe Nachman is touching upon like the beginning of creation. He's going to the most highest. You can't go higher than that. Everything else in Torah and Chassidut is within. The idea is here and here, but here he's so far-reaching. It goes to the infinite light, which are terms that we hear about in the Kabbalah, about the beginning of creation, the initiation. And he's saying all this through Simcha. We're in the world that through Simcha, you can tap into the highest levels possible. This is something unbelievable. It's phenomenal. Normally we're taught Simcha, okay, hold on, be strong, be good, and don't give up, and be positive, for the present. But he's saying it goes more than that. If you work on Simcha, and again, even silliness and jokes and everything, it brings you all the way up and up. I have a religious joke now. I want a religious joke, but not everybody will get it, because you have to know what's happening in Israel to get it, okay? There are school systems in Israel, religious school systems, the Keter, it's called Talmud Torah. Some receive funding from the government, and some refuse to receive funding from the government. The problem is now that those who are receiving funding from the government, so the government is forcing that they have a curriculum that fits in with the government. It's not necessarily bad. Maybe it is. I'm not to judge on that. But there's certain things that they force. So there's a joke that bells, they do receive funding from the government. And the program, it's called Liba. Okay? So now the joke is that the inspectors, the people who work for the government, they wanted to see that the kids are actually learning their curriculum. So they came to visit, and again, this is a religious joke. If you're not so into the religious world, you might not get it. But I'm hoping you guys will laugh. Okay? They came to one of the schools of the bells, and they called aside one of the kids, and they asked him a question based on what they're learning. He asked them, what are the three groups, the main groups of food? It's called avot, in Hebrew, avot hamazon. Avot hamazon literally translates as the forefathers of eating, of food. What are the three major food groups? So they asked the child, what are the three, and again in Hebrew, you can't say it in English that well. Avot hamazon. Who are the three father categories of the mazon. So the child said, number one, Reb Shaya ben Rav Moshe. Number two, the Bat Ayin. And number three, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. What's the joke? Is that everyone knows that for Reb Shai ben Rav Moshe, people give tons of food. You go to Reb Shai ben Rav Moshe's grave in Keter in Hungary, tons of food. And all over the world, people are making food, giving out food. You anywhere that they're giving out food, it's for free in honor of the neshama of Reb Shai ben Rav Moshe. And also you have the Bat Ayin, who's buried, or Avram Dov Orbach, who's buried in Tzfat. Many people do like a seudah in memory of the Bat Ayin. It's something very common by Sfardim, by Ashkenazim. They all do it. They just give a seudah in honor of the Bat Ayin. And Meron, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, what's the question? That's the spitz. People for the Hidulah, that's where hundreds of thousands of people come to eat. So the forefathers of the food, the forefather Avot HaMazon, Reb Shai. So he lost out. The inspector lost out. In other words, okay, that's the joke. But going back, that this lesson is so powerful, and it's so practical, and it's so close to you. When you're going through what you're going through in life, stop, work on being besimcha. What an amazing advice, an amazing tactic, amazing technique to get out of things in life. Be besimcha. It's such an amazing thing. People, they start worrying, oh my God, my child's going through a divorce now, and my shalom bayit is not working, and there's health issues, and this, and a person has like 5,000 things driving him nuts, and he's just worried, what are we going to do, and this, and that, how am I going to pay the bills, and pay the rent, everything, and it just takes up a person's mind, and he doesn't know what to do. And when not knowing what to do, he just continues going forward, trying to figure out what to do. Rebbe Nachman says, stop, don't do anything. Just work on being besimcha right now, and the simcha will channel into you energy from the highest levels, not just an immediate solution, but it will send you a light emanating from the infinite light, which is the beginning of creation. You might say, what do I need that? I don't need to go that far. And the answer is, yes, you do. Today, with what we're going through, especially today before Mashiach comes, the tests are so severe, so difficult, so challenging, so breaking. Even though on one hand, technologically we're advancing, everything's advancing, but people's neshamas are just burnt out. We mentioned this in a few classes already in the past while. That people are, their brain is burnt out, their heart is burnt out, they're not into things. Everything, the gashmiut is there, but spiritually, we're just lost in a sense, right? So that shows, more than any other time in the history of the world, we need to access big time the infinite light. That infinite light, it's called infinite light, because it's unending light of compassion and help and hope and healing, etc. for everything. How to tap into it? Simcha. With joy you will come to live, right? So this lesson really sticks out in the Likutey Moharan. Even in learning it, it's in a different ball game. This lesson 24, Baruch Hashem. So the last two paragraphs of the lesson, 7 and 8, were so deep. And Rav Nosson felt that it's needed, it's necessary for the average person learning Likutey Moharan, who's trying to understand things at a simple level. It was so deep that even understanding it simply, it's not happening. So Rav Nosson is reviewing the lesson now in this paragraph number 9. Now Rav Nosson, he has full permission to do so, because Rebbe Nachman himself said, you can find this quotation in the beginning of the book Tzaddik in English, which is Likutey Moharan in Hebrew. Rav Nosson's introduction to the book, he writes like this, that the Rebbe Nachman said, that nobody understands him in the world except for Rav Nosson a little. Rav Nosson and Rav Naftali a little, they said. They said the little is on Rav Naftali, but on Rav Nosson he does understand better than anybody else. So that's the case. In order to really appreciate and understand what Rebbe Nachman is saying, we do need to see how Rav Nosson, the disciple, interprets Rebbe Nachman. People come to Breslev, oh, Rebbe Nachman, Rebbe Nachman, Rebbe Nachman. But Rav Nosson's not in the picture, so you can be rest assured they're not fully into things. You need the student, the disciple, like Moshe and Yoshua. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Gemara says, Pnei Moshe ke Pnei Chama, Pnei Yoshua ke Pnei Levana. Moshe Rabbeinu's shining is like the sun, and Yoshua, the disciple's shining, is like the moon. The moon is reflecting the light of the sun, but you can see the moon. You can look at the moon. It's light which is in morsels, in pieces that you can use. But the sun, when it's especially like noontime, you can't look at the sun at all, right? You need to put on shades. So the student, Yeshua ben Nun, is considered like the disciple who knows how to filter the light. Because why does the Gemara tell us this? Why does the Gemara say, oh, the face of Moshe was shining like the sun, and Yeshua was like shining the moon? Why do I need to know that? Okay, you want to say their greatness? Fine, you can use another illustration. Why this illustration? Why illustrate this about the sun and the moon? To tell you that Yeshua ben Nun was a filter to properly transmit the light of Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay? So that being said, this disciple relationship between a tzaddik and a disciple, we need very much to see how the disciple is explaining the tzaddik. In this case, with Rebbe Nachman in his Likutey Moharan, and Rav Nosson, how he explains it, we need really to focus on how he says this. So Rav Nosson is going to help us a lot. He's going to add ideas here and there, and it's going to fill in the blanks tremendously, B'ezrat Hashem, and understanding the lesson. Okay, so Rav Nosson says like this. Ze ha'inyan, this whole thing about the Keter and the bounce and the running and then being bounced back and reaching and not reaching and the settling and organizing of the mind, all these things, and the betisha, the smash back, and the 9 chambers and filling them with the infinite light, all these concepts taken from one of the deepest passages of the Zohar, Parshat Noach, page 65a. Ze ha'inyan amok amok mi yimtzaenu. Rav Nosson is paraphrasing a verse. Deep, deep waters, who can find them? Who can find the treasure that's deep here? It's so deep, this concept. Kamuvan maskil, as any intellectual person can understand on their own how deep this section of the lesson is. This idea of the Keter, okay? V'chasher ramaz li Rabbeinu zichrono livracha be'atzmo, and as Rabbi Nachman himself, of blessed memory, hinted to me himself. Rav Nosson writes, again, this lesson was given on a Friday night in the summer of 1803. And like we said, if you remember, that when he was giving over this lesson, Rabbi Nachman's face was shining bright. He had to put a napkin, a handkerchief to cover his face because it was shining bright. Rav Nosson said we peeked on the side and we saw his face shining like crazy. Okay? So, and he said, Rav Nosson, that when Rebbe Nachman was giving over this lesson, no one could understand a word he was saying. He was like on fire. Because this lesson is really the whole idea of the Keter and the bounce back and on understanding, it matches how Rebbe Nachman gave it. It was only afterwards, on Saturday night, that Rav Nosson came into Rebbe Nachman and he gave him the manuscript to copy, word for word, verbatim. This lesson is Lashon Rabbeinu, meaning Rebbe Nachman himself wrote the lesson, or he dictated it word to word to Rav Nosson. So, at that time, when Rav Nosson was writing the lesson, he says, Rebbe Nachman hinted to him that this section of the lesson is very deep. Okay? Kasher ramaz li Rabbeinu zal ba'atzmo, godel amkut hasod hanora hazeh, shemagia lemala v'chule. How deep is the depth of this secret, this awesome secret here of the Keter, which goes up and up, as any normal person can see, because this is touching upon the beginning of creation. Again, you say, what do I need this for? You do need it. You're going to need it in life. The challenges you're going through and you feel stuck and frustrated, if it's shidduchim and stuff, and you don't know what to do anymore. You tried this, you tried that, you spoke to this rabbi, I did 40 days this, I did that, I'm trying to lose weight and this and that. Nothing's moving, Hashem, I don't know what you want from me. And you're so frustrated, right? Okay? So it's just, you need the infinite light to help you. Okay? And it goes up and up and up. And as is clearly laid out in this lesson, to anyone who digs deep in understanding the depth of this lesson, who learns it carefully, and out of necessity, we must explain a little bit this concept. Vehu. And here it is. It's the following. He explains it step by step, Rav Nosson. That's why Chaim Kramer in the notes on the English BRI edition, he says first learn section 9, and once you get it clear, go back to section 7 and 8, and you'll understand it better. I didn't do that because I was trying to explain. I wanted to go according to the lesson itself, and I wanted to explain on the spot. And even if we didn't get all the details, it was so deep, but after at least absorbing what we did, now we can, B'ezrat Hashem, see clearly the pieces. What is the Keter? In the Kabbalah, this term called the Keter, which we said is considered like a super sphera. It's above the 10 sphirot. You have the 10 sphirot, okay? Technically, Keter is one of them, but technically it's not. If you do Keter, you do what's called Keter Chochma Bina. And then you skip Da'at, because if you have Keter, there's no Da'at. So Keter Chochma Bina, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. So in Keter, you have 10. But you can have also Keter above, and you have what's called Chochma Bina Da'at, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut, okay? It's like, or Da'at or Keter, depends. And it shows you that it's in and out. It's sometimes part considered 10, when I don't know exactly all the usage, but there are times when the Keter is considered one of the 10, and there are times that it's above. In this lesson, it's considered one of the 10. It's number 1, and there's 9. 9 plus 1 is 10, okay? So the Keter, which is this sphera, what does it mean to us on a practical level? Where do you see in life the Keter interplay in your life? It's the settling and the structuring, the organizing of the mind. When in life, heaven sees that you need time now to take a break, and your mind needs to settle, and it's specifically, when does your mind need to settle? When you're going too fast. Most people think, if you're going forward, then go all the way, it's a green light. But Hashem says, no. There's also the fear that you might burnt out. See, in life, there's two things. There's two types of obstacles. You're going too slow, but there's also you're going too fast. Most people, unfortunately, crash totally when they go too fast. Going slower is better than going, and then afterwards accelerating is better than a person who accelerates at the beginning and then he crashes. I spoke recently, I mentioned this in one of the classes. I have a friend who's a convert, and his wife is a convert, and they moved to a very religious Haredi community, not in Israel, in the diaspora, and they have a child, and now they're contemplating which school system to put him in. There's the Hasidic one, which is called the Keter, where they speak Yiddish and they're very extreme. The dress code is very extreme. And there's a more orthodox, regular one, where also they're religious, everything, but it's more, laid back. It's not like they're on the child like this. There's more room of the dress code. There's more room of how his pace are and everything. Okay. So I listened to what he said. I was impressed with what he said. He said that they were really confused because they want, on one hand, their child to grow in a Hasidic surrounding, but what they're scared of, if it's too intense, and then the child will drop afterwards, it'll be too much for them, and then he'll drop it. And then once you lose him, the chances of a child getting back on are very hard. And even if they get back on the bandwagon, right? Even if they get on the bandwagon, it's not the same as the beginning, like you really wanted. Whereas, if you do start step by step, so then you went at a pace that the child can handle, and then it's up to him if he wants to advance. You give him the room. So I was impressed that they decided to give him the regular Orthodox education for the child. You would have thought, what? In this world, there's so much tumah in the world, go all the way. Yes, but if you're not born into it like other people, they're converts, okay? You're not born to it. There's a bigger chance that chas v'shalom there might be a fallout, and it'll be harder to get back on. Like Rashi says in Parashat Behar, a camel that's about to fall is easier to push him back up than a camel that has already fallen all the way. Then you need like 10 people to lift him up. A camel that's about to fall, 1 or 2 people, it's enough to, hey, don't fall. But once a camel, he gives the example of a gamal. That's the example, the analogy he gives of someone who falls with monetary. Someone who just needs a loan, so it's easier to help than someone who just falls totally and is bankrupt and he has no money. Then you need more people to lift him up. That's the analogy Rashi uses. But that's how it is. That, he's about to fall, it's easier. Once you fall totally, it's really hard to get back. It's not impossible. We believe there's hope, but it's difficult. Okay, so I was impressed with that attitude. Okay, so he's saying here, the Keter, when the heaven sees that, or the person's subconscious even, that the person is going too fast and he's going to burn out, so the Keter kicks in to activate what's calling the settling and organizing of the mind. Okay, it's needed so the person shouldn't burn out. Okay, this exists at every level, even by secular world, but especially by the Torah world. This is where it's the maximum. The climax is when a person is pursuing Hashem. He wants to come close to Hashem. He's looking for light. As a person who's secular, maybe even a non-Jew, they can have technically a Keter, that they have an ambition, Because we see in life, everybody gets hit. You're Jewish, you get hit. You're non-Jewish, for sure you get hit in life. You always have setbacks. No one is exempt from setbacks. You might think, if this applies only to Jews, so technically the Goyim who don't have this, they shouldn't have setbacks in life. But you see that everyone has setbacks in life, so it must be that they have, according to their level, a type of Keter, even though if they're not Jewish. And even if it's not related to Hashem and Yiddishkeit, they have in their thing, a person has an ambition to become a lawyer. So he had the setbacks. He got the wrong teacher, he failed the test, or whatever. As opening a store, a business, right? There was a movie of the guy who started McDonald's. So you see how he started, fell back, he had a divorce and this, and he was about to lose his house. It was like in and out. That's how it is in the world. Rebbe Nachman writes this clearly, that in the world, everyone has in and out, okay? So what the Keter does to help a person, at least a person who's honest and sincere, wherever he is, the Keter pulls into play what's called the settling and organizing of the mind. And he explains, Rebbe Nachman, Dahainu hakoach sheyesh be'asechel shel adam leyashev ולסדר את המוח והדעת לבל יהרוס לצאת חוץ מן הגבול. Okay. In other words, the Keter, which is this organizing and settling of the mind, is this strength, this power of the mind. He's saying it's a power that's in the mind. Because when you're Keter, you think, it's something far beyond. So he's saying it's graspable and tangible in the mind. It's a power that the intellect has, of man's intellect, to settle and organize the mind and the intellect, that the person leval yaharos latzet chutz min hagvul, that the person shouldn't chas v'shalom, shouldn't destroy yaharos, to go past the boundary. Okay, this is something very important. This is one of the most important teachings of Breslev, is don't destroy, don't go too fast. Leval yaharos. How many times we've seen these Baal Tshuvas, people come to Breslev, whatever, and you see that you feel they're going too fast, they're going too extreme. He did this, he started going long pace, he shaved his head, and he started wearing the bekesha, and he jumped in, and he was so extreme, you can't even talk to him because he was so extreme. And then 10 years down the road, you see he crashed. What happened, man? What happened? And you see that you're in a better place than he is now. Rav Nosson had this, by the way. Rav Nosson, the person who brought him to Breslev, was a guy named Rebbe Lipa. Rebbe Lipa came from a Hasidic family, and his wife came from a Hasidic family, and he was always arguing. Was Rav Nosson's chavrusa in the Beis Midrash in Nemirov. After Rav Nosson got married, he lived in Nemirov, and not right after. First, he stayed close to his father-in-law, Rav David Tzvi Orbach, and then he moved back to his hometown Nemirov, and he was always arguing with Rav Nosson, Rav Lipa, about the qualities and the value of the Hasidic movement. And Rav Nosson came from a family of anti-Hasidim. They're just taking away from the Torah way. They're just making these twists and changes, and it's dangerous, and they're like a cult and whatever, okay? So Reb Lipa, when Rebbe Nachman finally moved to Breslev, which is, like we said, an hour drive from Nemirov. It's an hour drive from Nemirov. So back there was like a few hours by horse, by buggy and wagon and horse. So Reb Lipa went to spend the first Shabbos that Rebbe Nachman came to town, and then he came back to Nemirov for the first night of Slichot. Ashkenazim, they start Slichot on the first Saturday night before Rosh Hashanah. Depends on when it is, right? So they saw a change in Reb Lipa. They saw Reb Lipa was saying like the Anenu, whatever, there's all types of repetitions in the Slichot, and they saw he was saying it slowly and that. Rav Nosson was really impressed. And he convinced Rav Nosson to go to Rebbe Nachman. Okay? This is after Rav Nosson already, because of Reb Lipa, the arguments for years, he already agreed to follow Chassidut, and he was looking for Rebbe. He went to the Berditchev, he went to this Rebbe, he went to all these different Rebbes, but he didn't find himself still Rav Nosson. And then when he saw Reb Lipa's change, he said, there's something here. There's something here by Rabbeinu, by Rebbe Nachman. So Rav Nosson on Sunday already went to go to visit Rebbe Nachman. The first day of, this is a Saturday night with Rebbe Lipa, and then Sunday Rav Nosson saw the change, and he said, this is real. This is the real deal. If you change Rebbe Lipa like that, there must be something here, right? So Rebbe Lipa came from a very, like I said, a good background and everything, and in a sense, he was going extreme more than Rav Nosson. What happened was afterwards, Rebbe Lipa fell off almost totally. He got involved in business more, and business, and he started less going to Rebbe Nachman, and he started saying, I need a Rebbe for this world, not for the world to come. Rebbe Nachman is a Rebbe for the world to come, not for this world. Because what he gives you is advice for Olam HaEmet, not for this world. I need a Rebbe who gives me advice for Parnusa and everything, right? So he started going back, okay? And then Rav Lipa's life turned sour. He had and major Shalom Bayit issues and major bad, okay? So after many years, after this happened, and also Lipa lost all of his money, Rebbe Nachman said, I want you to have no money. And it happened. He said a wind came, like a tornado, and uprooted Rebbe Lipa's house and all of his merchandise and all of his fortune. He was left with nothing. Because he was always running after Olam Hazeh, and he even left Rebbe Nachman for that. So once he came to Rebbe Nachman, he said, money's not for you. It's not like he's telling him, you need to invest in the world of truth, not to invest in trying to become a wealthy guy, okay? So after many, many years, Rebbe Lipa told Rav Nosson, the Gemara says, a man gets married, because the verse says in Bereshit, that Hashem created Chava to be for Adam, Ezer Kenegdo. Ezer Kenegdo. Ezer Kenegdo means a helpmate facing him, Kenegdo. But Kenegdo can also mean against him. So Rashi explains the famous teaching of the rabbis. If a man is Zoche, it says two words, Ezer Kenegdo. The woman, he created Chava to be a helpmate, but facing him, which can mean opposing him. So what is this? So Rashi says, Zacha, man who's Zoche, his wife is an Ezer. Lo Zacha, Na'asa Kenegdo. If he's not Zoche, she's turned into Kenegdo. Okay, so Rav Lipa said to Rav Nosson, why does the Gemara say, like Rashi is quoting the Gemara, Na'asa, she's turned into? He said, because that's what he said that can happen, that a woman can turn into an opponent. He said, that's what happened to me. When I was in the beginning, she was Ezer. And then because I didn't merit, she turned to be against me. And you, Rav Nosson, the exact opposite. His Rav Nosson's wife in the beginning gave him hell. If you read in the book Through Fire and Water, you see what he had to go through for his wife. She was really giving Rav Nosson a hard time in the beginning. And in the end, she came to see the greatness of Rav Nosson, and then they became a follower of Rebbe Nachman. She began to respect Rebbe Nachman, his teachings, etc. Okay? So the Rav Nosson was the exact opposite. That Rav Nosson, his wife, was first Kenegdo, and then she became Zacha, Ezer. So Rav Nosson once said about Reb Lipa, I knew that Reb Lipa was on a higher level than me. You hear this? I knew that Reb Lipa, he was at a higher standing in his Avodat Hashem than me. But look where he is now, and look where I am. And one of the explanations is Reb Lipa at first went too fast. He was going too strong, but then he had a crash. And then the crash wasn't money and this, and then he lost everything. Rav Nosson did things properly. He wanted to jump in. For example, his biggest obstacle in going to Rebbe Nachman was that his family was opposed. Again, you're going to the Rebbe because Rav Nosson, every time he felt lacking in Avodat Hashem, he would just take a horse and a buggy from Nemirov to Breslov. Is about 2 hours, 3 hours by horse. He'd go there and he'd speak to Rebbe Nachman. He would give him back life. He would revive him. And then he'd go back to continue. And then Rav Nosson again would feel empty. He would go, every time he felt empty, it's like, ding, 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 just press the button. You go back to the Rebbe. That was Rav Nosson. So the family was upset. Every time you go, it's not enough. Rosh Hashanah, and it's not enough. So once with the major times that Rebbe Nachman had his followers on Shabbat Chanukah and Shavuot, so Rav Nosson's wife was very upset because you were just by him. But he said, I have to be there. So someone suggested take your wife's head covering as a collateral. That that if now you go, so she'll be embarrassed. If she sees you take that, then she'll be embarrassed you have that as in your hand, and it'll be like a way to prevent her. So someone says, don't do it, because if you do that, she'll be embarrassed to go out, and a divorce for sure will come. And in the end, Rav Nosson listened to the advice. He didn't take his wife's expensive head covering as a collateral for him to go. And he thanks Hashem that he didn't take it, because he knew that if he would have, it would have ended up with a destruction. And that's the idea that a person sometimes, he's too extreme, and he throws everything aside and doesn't do things with a balance. Okay? Just an example, Rav Nosson was on the way back from Eretz Yisrael to be on time to be in Uman for Rosh Hashanah. And he says in his autobiography that they were a group traveling together from Eretz Yisrael, and then I think from Egypt or from Cyprus, I forgot exactly the route on the way back. and he wanted so badly to hurry up because there was a boat leaving the next night in one of the ports, and that would be the last one to make it on time to be in Uman for Rosh Hashanah. This is like sometime in the beginning of the summer, okay, because it took so long. So Rav Nosson was held back because they were a group and they wanted to travel together because they needed to travel together, and he saw that they were stalling and they missed that boat ride. And by missing that boat ride, he missed being in Uman for Rosh Hashanah. Okay, but Rav Nosson didn't push. He didn't say, okay, I have to make it, so let's do everything. And you guys, mistader levad. You guys work out it yourself without me. But he felt, no, there was a responsibility of being together. Okay, but other times, like when his wife passed away right before Rosh Hashanah, and he had orphans at home, he decided to leave them home, not alone, with care, and to be in Uman for Rosh Hashanah. And the loss would be temporarily because he was going to be back for Yom Kippur. So you have to know when to weigh it. But the point is that people, they tend to, when they have light, especially in Breslev, they just run like crazy. That's why the world makes fun of the Breslevers who are off a little. Because you guys, they feel, the world, you guys have too much light. The answer is, yes, there's light in Breslev, but not everyone is that example. Not everyone is like that. They go nuts. So if there's light, so you drop everything. You have also people who take it easy and go step by step. Even with the light shining, they know, I have to put a break. I know this is too much. So Rav Nosson is saying this idea that for the person who's honest and good and God-fearing and he's sincere and his simplicity, so the mind has this power, this strength to settle and organize the mind of the brain, intellect of the person, that he shouldn't chas shalom break his boundary, latzet chutz min hagvul, to go out of his boundary. Okay, this is something which is so important. Rav Nosson, he elaborates on this point. He says, for example, that this also applies between people. He says, like Rav Nosson says, it's not good to look too much at other people and like scrutinize them and then try to observe all the days. Why is he doing like that? Why does he do this? Why does he do that? And like think negative about other people. On one hand, you're supposed to help people to do tshuva, but it's not your job to, you should start doing this, start doing that. He says, Rav Nosson, something amazing. When trying to help people come close to Hashem, speak about the positive side. Speak about the positive side. Don't scrutinize them. When you scrutinize them, so now you're passing your border and then going into their side. But one second, do you know what they're going through? Do you know where they're coming from? You have the audacity, okay, the Torah says like this, halacha says like this, you're not supposed to be doing that. But do you know what he's going through? Do you know what's in his side? That's why he says that's not the way. You want to make care of people? Speak about the greatness of Hashem, the wonders of Hashem, get the person inspired. Even though he is as he is, he has tattoos, his wife doesn't cover the hair, he doesn't keep Shabbos properly, whatever. You do the positive of expressing the greatness of godliness. Because what he's finding by you, he won't find by the church, he won't find it by anywhere else, by Hindu, by Jubi, whatever. It's only by you, these diburim that he's finding. And on his own, he should begin to realize, I have to do this better, I have to change. And even if he's already saying that, I have to change, but he's stuck. So because he's stuck, you're not going to talk to him? Say, no, don't talk to me until you're keeping Shabbat, until you're this. I don't want to talk to you even. We can't do that. You can't wait for the person. You never know that the light that you're shining from the words is what can help him to get out. But to be in the negative force, Rav Nosson explains, that's called pen yehersu. You're not supposed to pass your boundary and go to the other person's domain. Speak about the greatness of Hashem. Let him on his own pick it up. And at his speed, it's like you have to be patient with people until they actually wake up. It takes time. Okay, that's why Rav Nosson mentions this point also between people. The Zohar talks about this blemish as being the blemish of Nadav and Avihu. The Zohar says about Nadav and Avihu, one of their it lists in the Zohar many reasons besides what the Gemara says that they weren't married, but also it lists in the Zohar other reasons. One of them was that they were docheket hasha'ah. They didn't wait. They're supposed to wait. They offered the Ketoret, the incense offering, at the wrong time. It was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. When is incense offered? They weren't commanded yet. They were going to be commanded that the incense is going to be offered in the Holy of Holies only on Yom Kippur, one day. They came in Rosh Chodesh Nisan without permission into the Holy of Holies, and they offered the incense. And it was two of them they went in. It was Nadav and Avihu. In a sense, that wasn't such a blemish, because the Gemara says, believe it or not, that Moshe went with Aharon together when Aharon would offer the incense. So long as Moshe Rabbeinu was alive and Aharon, with his brother, would go in together to the Holy of Holies on the Yom Kippur that they encountered in the desert. He would go together. It's amazing Midrash and Gemara that says that. Just Moshe would stand there, but Aaron would do all the work. But they would go in together. So Nadav and Avihu, probably they got it from what they were going to see, that Moshe and Aaron were going in together. In any event, the point is that the Zohar says that Nadav and Avihu, they also did harisa. They didn't wait. These were tzaddikim. They were great. Nadav and Avihu, Moshe told Aaron, I see they're greater than me and you. Okay? And yet, they didn't wait. They were docheket hasha'ah. By being docheket hasha'ah, by pushing this at the time, you harass, you break the wall. That was harisa, okay? Harisa is something so dangerous. Even at Har Sinai, when the Jews received the Torah on Shavuot, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, Pen Yehersu, warn the Jews, you have a fence around Har Sinai, but warn them again when they see me coming down, me, Kivyachol, coming down on Har Sinai to give the Torah. The Jews are going to just forget everything and run towards the light. Because when a person is exposed to a light that they've never, a dosage and a level of light that they've never in their life experienced, the normal person who's living all his life in darkness, and he thinks the darkness is light. He thinks the darkness he has is light, so he doesn't know any better. And all of a sudden you expose him to a higher level of light. The normal attitude of the person is, oh my God, he drops everything and runs forward, right? That's normal. Okay, that's why they need a warning. Careful, warning, don't fall into that, don't go into that. So this is something really, really important in life. And many people have fallen because of it. And I've seen many people fall because of it. Fortunate is the person who goes step by step with caution. He goes, advances, and when he's overdoing it, but he's honest, the Keter will come into play to push him back. Okay? So that's the idea. Levad yaros latzet chutz min hagvul. Okay? I think we'll stop here, because Rav Nosson now is going to elaborate this point more, and we need more details. B'ezrat Hashem. And for people who want to pursue this beautiful concept, you can go to lesson 24, LESSON 24, Breslov Therapy, BRESLOV therapy.com. Okay, everyone, have an amazing week, and may Hashem console us and place pe'er, splendor, instead of ashes. B'ezrat Hashem. And that itself is amazing, that Hashem can transform the ashes, that a person feels, oh, it's finished, my life is finished, it's over. That's like ashes. But the hope is so strong that Hashem can transform the pe'er, the efer, to pe'er. To make it, it's the same letters. Aleph, Pei, Resh, and pe'er is Pei, Aleph, Resh, the same letters. To transform the efer, the ashes, that person feels burnt out totally, into pe'er, b'ezrat Hashem. It all depends on the person's heart and his ratzon, his desire to come back. And any time a person wants to come back, he can come back. All right, thank you for joining, everybody. Thank you so much.